Our Bible word is Genesis 2 verse 3. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all the work which God had created and made. So we are in Genesis. This is the account of God's creation. And of course, there's also lots of confusion about this passage in terms of how to interpret it. Does it mean that God created the world in 7 days? No, that's not what the text is saying. Does this also say this is the exact order that God created everything? No, it's not also about that. If we want to understand a biblical text, we must always first ask ourselves, what did it mean in its own context when it was written? What did the author mean by the text? And also, when the people heard the text or read it, what would they have gathered from the text? So, if our textual unit is the world and its inhabitants, that's the larger context, that's chapters 1 to 11. But our more immediate context is where God creates order from chaos. And that's from Genesis 1 verses 1 to 2 verses 3. We have done a similar video like this, but here we're going to look at Genesis 1 in more detail so that we can have a better understanding of the text. Because a lot of things is said about it, how to understand God and how does it relate to science. But the text is not about science. The purpose of the text is something different. It does not say God created the world in 7 days, etc. It doesn't also say that God created it in this exact order. There's different things going on in the text. If I can again use an analogy, imagine a librarian, he comes across a library and it's in a total state of chaos. The bookshelves are turned over, there are books lying all over the place. It's in a state of disorder. And what the librarian does, he comes and he first cleans it out. He arranges all the bookshelves according to category. This is for English, this is for history, this is for science, this is for economics, whatever it may be. And then once he's arranged all the bookshelves in order, then he populates those shelves with those books. And he also makes the books alphabetically according to author, and he numbers them, etc. So he's creating order out of chaos. And this is exactly what Genesis 1 is about. God comes to the cosmos, he finds it in a state of chaos. Things are not working or functioning as they're supposed to function. Then God sets everything in order. So that is what we must look at Genesis 1. Because order, it refers to purity. God is in a state of purity. In other words, in a state of order. God's people must be in a state of order or purity. The cosmos must be in a state of order and purity. And this also relates to the temple. There are various degrees of purity related to the temple. Outside of the temple, there was an expected level of purity. If you went into the temple, a higher degree of purity was required. If you went beyond the sorech, that was a low wall, where only Jews could go beyond, there was a higher level of purity expected. And if you go into the inner courts of the temple, and the Holy of Holies at the back of the temple, that was in the highest state of purity, because that is where God dwelt. In other words, there was the highest state of order. So where God is, there's purity, there's order. And that's also expected from God's people. And Genesis 1 is about God assigning order, function, and purpose to the cosmos. It doesn't mean God created the sun and God created light at that moment. Those things already exist. Everything you encounter in Genesis 1, those things already exist. But they're not arranged. They're not assigned function yet. They're not put into a place to work the way it should. Exactly the same way a librarian would take the books in a library and arrange it so that place can function as a library. So this is what's going on in Genesis 1. It's God assigning order, purpose, and function to the cosmos. If you go to Genesis 1 verses 1, God finds the cosmos in a state of disorder. Let's go there. It says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. If we look at that word created, it's from the Hebrew bara. And it does not necessarily refer to material creation, but to assigning order, purpose, and function. I mean, there's other verses we can also look at. Psalm 51 and Isaiah 57. That's what bara also refers to. As God assigns order, purpose, and function to something. And if you look at the word without form, that's from the Hebrew tohu. And it refers to something that's unproductive. And the word void, it's from the Hebrew bohu. And it refers to something that's in a desolate state. So if we paraphrase Genesis 1 and a bit of verse 2, we can say, in the beginning God assigned order, purpose, and function to the heavens and the earth. The earth was unproductive and in a desolate state. So God now wants to assign order to the cosmos, make everything work, and also He wants to make the earth productive, so it actually produces something. And if we see God creating, in Genesis 1, or where He gives something names, like He calls the light day and darkness He calls light. And God also says in verse 14, let there be. These words is God assigning order, purpose, and function to the various elements of the universe. The emphasis is not on God creating them from new. It's about putting them in their proper place. So remember that. When God creates, when He names something, and when He says, let there be, He's assigning function to something. He's ordering it so it works properly. So also at the 7 days. So like I said in the beginning, the 7 days must not be taken literally. God didn't create the cosmos in 7 days. The number 7 is symbolic. And it's symbolic of temple construction and temple inauguration. God, in Genesis 1, is creating a cosmic temple. It's a place for Him to dwell in, so to speak, where His presence can be. So that's what Genesis 1 is about. If we look at Exodus 40, for example, there the temple was constructed and completed in 7 stages. If we go to Leviticus, the ordination of a priest takes 7 days. If we go to 1 Kings, Solomon's temple was constructed in 7 years. And again, another passage in 1 Kings. The temple was dedicated during a 7-day festival and on the 7th month. And also if you look at Solomon's speech, that his dedication is given in 7 petitions. So the number 7 must be taken symbolically. It does not refer to the number of days God created the cosmos. It refers to God is constructing and inaugurating the cosmic temple, creation. That is what it refers to. So the whole of Genesis 1 is filled with symbolic language. It refers to other things, not a scientific understanding that God created the cosmos in 7 days, etc. That's not what the text is speaking about. When the first people wrote it or read it or heard it, they wouldn't have understood it that way. For them, this was a metaphor. It was describing God. This is a temple inauguration. The whole cosmos is God's temple that He constructs and inaugurates in 7 days. So if we go back to the library, if we look at the librarian putting up the bookshelves, we can compare that to the first 3 days of creation. That's getting everything prepared in order. That's the elements of the cosmos. And days 4 to 6, refers to the users of the elements. We'll go into that detail now, but if you look at those 6 days of creation there, we must understand that it's the cosmic temple inauguration. God is constructing and inaugurating the cosmic temple. So what does God create? Let's first look at the elements. That's days 1 to 3. First, God creates light on day 1. That's the main thing He creates. Day 2, he creates the firmament. That is the heaven. That is where water is separated from above the firmament to below the firmament. It was believed at this stage that above heaven or above the firmament there were these storehouses of waters. Day 3, God created land and plants. And now we look at the uses of the elements on the right-hand side. So what uses light? So on day 4, God created the sun, the moon, and the stars. That uses light. And on day 5, God created water animals and birds, because that uses what was created on day 2. It's basically the firmament or the heaven that God created and water. So it's the birds and the water animals that makes use of the heavens and water. And on day 6, what makes use of land and plants? Land animals make use of it. And also mankind makes use of land and plants. So we must understand this relationship between days 1 and 4, and days 2 and 5, and days 3 and 6. Days 1 and 3 refers to the elements, and on days 4 to 6, that is the uses of the elements. So here's God assigning order, purpose, and function to the cosmos. So things must work the way they are supposed to work. Because the darkness is there to give night, light is there to give day, etc. They all assigned various purposes to fulfill. But there's also more that's going on here. If you read some days, it says that God says it was good. For example, day 1, light was good. Day 3, the land and plants were good. Day 4, the sun, moon, and stars were good. Same for day 5, water animals and birds. Day 6 also, land animals were good. So what does it mean, good? It means that it's complete. In other words, it's finished. There's no more work that needs to be done on it. If you look at mankind on day 6, it doesn't say that they were good. So we can draw the first conclusion from the creation narrative in Genesis. God created man as incomplete. So we're still a work in progress. There's also other words that were repeated and sometimes omitted. Sometimes the word "it was so" was used, and that is in day 2 for the firmament and heaven. It's also used for day 3 for land and plants. Also for day 4, the sun, moon, and stars. And also for land animals, it was so. What does it mean? The Hebrew word refers to something that's fixed in place. In other words, it is not free. It does not have freedom. If we look at day 5, water animals and birds have freedom. Also mankind also has freedom, because that "it was so" is not used there. So we can draw the second important conclusion in terms of Genesis narrative. God created man as free. And also the water animals and the birds are blessed, and mankind is blessed. So God blessed those things that are free. And also if you read the narrative, it says there man was created in God's image. It was they are to have dominion over the earth, but also to work alongside him to create order out of chaos. So they represent God in creation. So if we put everything together, we can say that God created man as incomplete, as free, and blessed with authority. So there's lots of beauty that's going on in Genesis 1. It's giving a different message of how God ordered the chaos, how he came and assigned function to different things. And also how some things are fixed, in other words, they are programmed, but mankind is not fixed that way. We are incomplete. And also how God gave freedom to some, but also not to others. And also that some were completed and some were not complete. Mankind's incomplete. And also God blessed some aspects of his created order. In other words, He blessed mankind. So there's this beautiful narrative. There's things that are repeated. Sometimes they are omitted. When God says, let us create, or let there be, or when He names something, He's assigning order, function, and purpose to it. Let me emphasize, this is not about God creating the things anew. These things were already in place. He's just reshuffling it and making it work now, like that library must work. And also words are repeated. Sometimes it's not said, and there's also kind of hidden meaning there. And like I said, when it comes to mankind, who was created in God's image, they were created as incomplete, as free, and blessed with authority. Mankind has been given this responsibility to be God's image bearers. That means to rule over creation and also to help God create order out of chaos. And of course, part of created order is time. When God finished His work, when He's seen that everything is right now and in place, He rests. He's sitting enthroned in the cosmos. He's conquered chaos. He's the ruler and creator of the cosmos. That's why God can rest now, because His work is done. There's now order. There's now purity in the cosmos. And mankind is invited to come and participate in this order of creation. That's why we celebrate God's order of creation on the seventh day. We also rest from our labors on that day. So where elements, things of the cosmos are in order, a state of purity, part of this order is time. Every Sabbath day, people must rest. They must contemplate God. They can also celebrate God's conquering of the chaos and also the rest from His labors. It's like our Bible word also says, when God looked at the seventh day, then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all the work which God had created and made. So, if we read Genesis, this is how we must understand it. This is how the first people would have understood the text. God entered a state of chaos. He reshuffled all the pieces that were there, and He assigned order to them, function to them, purpose to them, that there's purity, that there's order, that the cosmos can work the way it's supposed to work, and where God can also call His temple, the place where He can make His home, His abode.